Well, hey, everybody.
Hey.
And welcome to Gwen's Girls Presents Real Women Having Real Conversations.
Hey. All right now.
I'm excited, y'all. I'm excited. Well, my name is Brittany Brown, and I'm the Young Adult Coordinator at Gwen's Girls, and I am fearfully and wonderfully made, honey.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's a lot to follow up with. My name is Shukura. I'm a YDS at the Northside site. I'm your resident California girl.
Okay,
and
sunshine.
You can find my work. Oh, yes, all the time. Palm trees and radiance.
She's radiant, honey.
Oh, sorry, I started singing. Hi, I'm Jordan Newby. I am the, site supervisor over at Claire, and I can add that in there, and I am the powerhouse.
Yes,
and
she
last
is.
but not least, I'm Tanisha
Yes, honey.
Gillespie. I am the YDS of the Northside site, mother and grandmother, and phenomenal woman.
Grandma.
Yes, she is.
Yes, grandma. Yes,
Phenomenally
can you believe
woman.
it?
Yes, you are.
Oh, yes, we are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today, everybody, we're going to have a real conversation today.
And it's going to get real.
It's going to get real.
It's touchy. It's definitely a touchy conversation. And today we're talking about intimate partner violence, also known as IPV.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's real. So I just want to start. Does anybody want to share any personal stories or any stories around IPV?
Well, I experienced a little bit of IPV in my teenage years and into my young adult years, but I really witnessed it firsthand. Growing up in a toxic, abusive household, physical violence, verbal violence, not too much, well, mental, because it affected me later on in life.
I can definitely say for myself, I also grew up in a very toxic household that dealt with a lot of verbal and physical abuse. Then later on in my adult life, I found myself entering into those same type of relationships.
Yeah, mine was more so verbal than physical. And I grew up in a single parent household. So it was more so verbal towards the children. Once a parent is done going through what they need to go through, they don't know where else to channel that energy. So they channel it towards the children. So it's more verbal.
Yeah.
And I know there's many different types of IPV, right? We've talked about the physical and financial and emotional, and I feel like there's a lot of emotional instances in my household, a lot of yelling and walking on eggshells and things like that. But even witnessing one of my earliest memories, I had to be about 4, and seeing my grandfather. So not my father in that sense, but we're talking generational. My grandfather choking my mother and getting into it. And that's one of my earliest memories, and just thinking about how...
And that's so young, at 4. They usually don't have memories until you're about 5.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times I don't think we give kids enough credit, right? That we know, we can think back to our childhood, like we see things, we feel things. We may not be able to articulate it or understand it as we do now as adult women, but we know when something's going on and it still affects us.
Kids are very, very aware.
I would say, what's the saying? You can never remember what someone says to you, but they'll definitely remember how they make you feel.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So how did you, thank you all for sharing, number one. I really applaud you guys for sharing your personal stories, but how do you now process that as an adult?
Go ahead.
First, acceptance, because seeing myself in a lot of toxic relationships and situations and things that I had allowed when I had low self-esteem, self-worth, where I thought these things were normal and the way to love and how to love. I didn't know how to love, right? So even having to define what that looked like for myself, to be able to have a healthy relationship was really important.
You know what? I tell the teen moms and the young ladies I work with at Gwen's Girls, you date at the level you're at. So if you're not loving yourself, you're going to find somebody, you're going to date somebody who really doesn't love you.
Right.
And I can say for myself as an adult processing that, I found myself entering, like I said, into the same relationships, somehow trying to fix the men. I was fixing my father at the same time.
Absolutely.
Or somehow because I wasn't getting physically abused, that I was somehow outwitting and I was doing better than the women that were getting physically abused. I feel like I was smarter than to let a man hit me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I also found myself too, before I entered therapy, that I became an abuser.
Oh, yeah.
A big verbal abuser.
Yes.
Because I want to be like you ain't going to hit me. You know what I mean? But I'm definitely going to cut you with my words. And if you do hit me, what's up? Because I'm going to hit you back. You know what I mean? And I realized that even then, now looking back as an adult, that wasn't an abusive relationship. You know, because although I was fighting back, you know, it was still very abusive. But in my mind, I felt like because I was fighting back, it wasn't abusive. Because I was kind of like somehow taking charge of that.
It's trying to regain your power,
right? Your control, right?
In any way that you can,
right?
And also that's the same with how you say you kind of project, even in a verbal household where it wasn't too physical. You turn around and kind of do the same thing to your children,
right?
Oh
so yeah,
because I'm a yeller.
I'm a screamer. I'm a screamer. I'm a screamer.
Definitely.
And sometimes I have to sit back when you see tears. You have to sit back and like, I didn't have to say that much to a 9-year-old. They really don't know any better. So that's another form of like it projects onto your children.
It can become generational.
Definitely,
it does.
Generational trauma.
Like you said, I found myself now as an adult, although I don't hit my children. I mean pluck them every now and then. That's legal, guys. No, but I definitely screamed, and I was screaming like, "What?" As I'm screaming, "What am I screaming for?" Like, you know, like he's 10, he's 14. Like, what are you? You know what I mean? But as an adult, I have to find myself processing that is still abuse.
Yes.
You know, and I had to really sit down and say, okay, when I get angry, upset, I have to take a breath. Take a step back and tell my children, you know, I'm gonna come back and talk to you in about 5 minutes because mommy needs a break.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't want my children, because I have 4 boys and I finally have a little girl now, but I don't want my children, my boys to become abusers because of the trauma I'm inflicting, you know, on them.
Definitely.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. You something? I was going to ask Miss Tanisha, I know you were about to say something about, you know, how you processed it.
How I processed the verbal, the physical, the things I witnessed when I was younger, that when I got into these relationships with these men, I became the abuser. I became the one who I felt like, okay, I'm going to walk in, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to walk in at 4 o'clock in the morning, or I'm going to purposely do something for the intent for a man to show out on me. Or choke me up, or put me against the wall, or verbally talk to me crazy, because I felt like if he didn't do these things, he didn't love me enough. So that was my take on it. And if he didn't do those things, if I had someone who was like passive, I became the aggressor, to where I would physically hit somebody to make them fight back. Or I would be verbally abusive and tell them they were less than me. And it was just crazy. Just the things that I witnessed growing up is the things that I end up projecting onto my relationships. Okay. Even down to my kids. Yeah. I wouldn't say nasty things to them, but I would definitely yell and make them scared of me, because that's how I felt like the fear would give me respect. Yeah. My dad scared the mess out of me growing up. So I didn't do things. I was scared, like, okay, if I do this is what's going to happen to me. So I tried that with my kids. It worked for one, didn't work for the other.
Right, children are definitely, you got to parent different with each child. But, you know, I'm glad we talked about the processing, because I feel like now, you know, where I'm at now, you know, I feel like that was years ago. Now I'm a little older. I had to go through therapy. And it was so real. And I had to realize that therapy was not, didn't make me lesser. It made me stronger, because I realized that I had something that I needed to work, issues that I needed to work through. You know, so like I said, I became the abuser in my adult relationships. Or I looked for men who were similar to my father, alcoholics. I felt like I could fix them. I looked, and, you know, and the crazy part is I had to be single for 2 years. And legit just be single, like, you know, no dating, go to therapy, go to church, because I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a Christian, and I had to really say, okay, I need an anchor, because I was literally just all over the place emotionally. So how can I anchor myself? You know, so does anybody want to talk about how they found their anchor, or what they had to do to really kind of work through this?
I've been single. It's been 10 years.
That's a long time.
10 years, because I feel like I am not emotionally available. I'm not emotionally ready. I'm not physically ready or mentally ready to deal and try to weed out all these other problems with another man, a male. I'm not ready for that at all. Okay. So
I appreciate that.
And I'm also spiritual. So it's like I've met men where our spiritual beliefs did not mesh.
Okay, so you want like equally yoked.
We need to be equally yoked. Yes, equally yoked. And you can be a different religion. However, just respect. It's a boundary.
Respect it.
Right.
So I've been single for 10 years, and I've been loving life. Loving it.
I appreciate and also value that alone time to
Right.
really be able to sit with yourself to heal, because that healing process is ongoing.
Right.
It's like
It
layers,
never
and
ends.
it's not
Yes.
easy. You
It's
know?
onions, honey. It's an onion.
It is.
And I'm a big old onion. I got a lot of layers.
One of them big sweet ones.
Right.
It's gonna be tears. It's hard. I know a lot of people always say, "I'm going through it." Right? I'm going through it, and a lot of times we're sitting in our stuff, and going through it means we have to actually make it to the other side and create a different belief system for ourselves, a different value system for ourselves, and just unpack so much of our experiences that we've gone through. So it's a commitment to you, to not anybody else, not to a man, not to anybody, but to yourself.
Yes.
Right. I think that's why I stayed single so long too. Cause I realized I wasn't happy. You know, and I say I needed to find happiness in Brittany before I found happiness in a man, because happiness in somebody else is fleeting. You know, it's temporary. It's a temporary emotion. So I said, so how can I be happy before I meet another man? Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I was at. What about you, Tanisha?
Well, honey, I'm still trying to figure things out in my life.
That's okay.
It took me to leave. It took 11 years and a baby to leave. This guy wasn't physically abusive, but he was very verbal, very mental. So it took me 11 years, him cheating and leaving me, for me to say, this is my moment, this is my time, I'm done. To this day, hey, still, try to get this thing. But, no, I will never go back to that. So it took some, I don't even know the words I'm looking for here. It just took some strength and some courage, because he was the breadwinner. He was the one who, provided for my kids that weren't his. At the time, we didn't have our daughter. He was the breadwinner. He was the caretaker. He was the one who was, buying the kids clothes, but it paid a price. Your dad ain't doing nothing for you. At least I'm doing it. It took me and my kids, verbal abuse. My kids endured that because I was scared to leave a man that was my financial security.
So let's talk more about that. Why do women? So you said because he was financially made you secure, and that's why you didn't leave. Let's talk about that. Why do women stay?
I think she put that nail on
stability.
The coffin.
Man,
stability.
boom. Yes.
Security. Right? Having a sense of a secure relationship. And however we've learned to understand what that is and what that looks like.
Right. Yeah. I think so too, is because we're so in love with this man's potential that we'll make any excuse for him to keep him. And like you said, and it's like because if I leave, then what? Maybe I'm not working and making enough money like I want to. How can I provide for my children if I leave him? Or my children will enter into a single family household, and I want them to have a father figure around. Yeah. There's so many reasons why.
And that was my excuse for 11 years. During all the cheating, whatever it may have been, it was always, okay, he did this, but this is what he does for me. He's doing this, but this is what I get. Or my bills are paid, my rent's paid, I don't have to do nothing. We got a car, I can drive it when I want. But I gotta take the cheating, the lying, the disrespect with him calling females in my basement while I'm in my room and I can hear him through the vents. I just close my eyes and act like I didn't hear it. It became normal. It became accepted. It came to the point where I would go through his phone and tell him, who's this chick? Why is there someone new today? Oh, that's so-and-so. I dealt with that for years and just accepted it because, hey, this is what it is. This is what he's doing for me. Shut your mouth and don't say nothing. So, again, it took a lot of strength and it took some reprogramming to say that this isn't normal. This isn't right. You deserve more. And I was still trying to figure out my worth, and I found it. And that's why. Thank you. Woo,
and you're bomb.
Girl, find your worth.
And you're bomb now.
Thank you. So are you.
It radiates off your face.
Right.
Thanks, God. I'm sensitive now. Don't make me but so it's just finding that inner strength and saying, you know what, I don't need this. I don't want it. And hey, I can do this. We can do this.
Also, Tanisha, what I hear in some of what you're saying is a level of self-compassion and forgiveness as well that has to come forth, right? To gain that strength and be able to move forward as beautifully as you have and as we all have.
Yes, definitely.
And I want to kind of go back a little bit. I know some of us share personal experiences dealing with IPV. I want to talk about, because recently in the news we hear about Meg Thee Stallion. She got shot and people didn't believe her, called all types of snitches and things like that. Why do you think people don't believe Black women when they're in intimate partner violence?
So Meg Thee Stallion, as we all know, she's a rapper.
Right.
She was dating Tory Lanez, who's also a rapper. And she has one of my favorite songs recorded.
Girl, don't put that right to shout out. They ain't ready for that right now.
That's tonight, honey.
No, I think with their situation, I guess they were supposed to be at a party or something, and argument happened, and she's a big girl. So I guess he probably thought, he's angry. He don't know how to. She's a big girl. He's a little guy.
I'm gonna have to shoot her.
However, but I think
in the foot too. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I think in my opinion, for Meg Thee Stallion, why she did not come forward at first is because think about how our Black males are being treated in society today. They're getting killed by cops. They're getting lost in the system. They're falling victim to the streets. As a nurturer as Black women are, why would I subject the Black man to that already?
To more abuse,
more trauma, more. So then he can't. If he goes to jail, can't come home and get a job.
See, I agree, but it just makes me so upset that Black women are never seen as victims. People joked about her, like, she's so tall, she could have plucked him in the forehead. Like, you know what I mean? It's not trying to make light of it, but still people are saying, you know what I mean? And it makes me so upset that people always say Black women are too strong, we're too angry to be victims. You know what I mean? So
I think we get that stereotype because we always have attitudes, or in fights there's a whole lot of fighting amongst us, and we're always known as just like the aggressors.
See, all these stereotypes, because I know I'm a teddy bear, honey.
Me too, girl. We don't need nobody, we don't need no man, we're just we're strong creatures. So I think that's why we might be seen as, she's all right, she got it, she can handle it. Opposed to help me, I'm, just as soft and vulnerable as our counterparts.
Right.
Because that strong, independent woman trope or myth or whatever you want to call it, it harms us.
It does.
To hold on to that belief and not and put everyone else before ourselves. And it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful that we have the space and the capacity and empathy to want to protect other people, but not at the expense of our safety,
It really makes me sad too, and I want to talk about like exit strategy. So when Meg Thee Stallion said, "I'm gonna leave this relationship," and she came public with it, she was criticized for it. And leaving, and I applaud her strength, because leaving is literally the most dangerous time. And anybody who's involved in an intimate partner violence, and I can tell of stories of women who were, when they finally did leave, the man stabbed her, shot her, killed her. Like we've seen that one, I can't think of the man's name, where when they had some abuse in the relationship and he killed her and her daughters. It's very, very, dangerous. And I can speak for, personally too, when I fled as young girl, we had to-go bags ready, hidden around the house, to where people could, only we knew where they were. So when it was time to leave, we can literally grab the bag and be out the door. Shoes were already where they needed to be, by the door. Coats were there if it was cold outside. We had the bags, and when we left, we had, our personal toiletries and things like that. So does anyone want to talk more about exit strategies?
Even if it's a plan to save up some money, if it's accessible, and don't tell anybody. Just get on the train, take you and your kids, whatever you got to do, and just book it. I know someone when I was younger who left, walked many, many miles to get where they got to, and the grandmother told the abuser, the father, where they were at. So of course the father came, took him, and then the abuse endured when they got to the house.
It was worse, probably,
It
I'm
got
sure.
worse. It got worse.
That brings me to my point, though, where I want to say, I don't mean to cut you off. However, it's like, if you're fleeing and you need your extra strategy, you have to have a support system.
Yes.
A strong support system, because you are bringing a lot of different people into the path of this chaos.
Yeah.
So if you do not have a strong support system, seek it out, or like you said, just don't tell anybody.
We hear about all the time, families, the enraged husband or ex-husband or whatever, going mad and massacring the whole family because of anger, because he couldn't get that person
But
back.
even still, it's just not men who are the abusers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of same-sex couples.
Oh, definitely.
Women, and although I wasn't physically abusive, there's a lot of women men are silent when it comes to abuse, because they feel like a woman shouldn't hit me. I should be able to defend myself. Yes, emasculated. There's a lot of men I see now on social media who are posting pictures of their abuse, and it's horrendous.
Yes.
Scars, blood, like down to the white meat. So I'm not trying to take away from what you're saying, but it's definitely, there's a lot of other forms of abuse.
Definitely, but it's all downplayed because it's not okay if a man does it to a female, but it's more acceptable when a female does it to a man, because hey, well, bro, you should have shook her up, or you should have did what you had to do.
Or ladies don't hit that strong. Let me say something. Like I take boxing, honey, because I can hit hard. I box. You know what I mean? But, that goes back to say, too, and John said support system. I grew up sometimes where I didn't have a support system, and you had to flee with whatever you had. Sometimes you can't wait until the money piles up. You can't wait until somebody comes to get you. Sometimes you just have to run. And some of my first memories and some of my favorite memories were living in a women's shelter. Yeah. With my siblings. Because I had food 3 times a day. My clothes were clean. I saw other kids who were similar to me. You kind of knew. It was like the unspoken bond in that word. Like, I know you're going through the same thing. So it wasn't embarrassing. Like, going to school, it was embarrassing. I felt like people knew. You know what I mean? But when I lived in a women's shelter, I was like, everybody's going through the same thing. So it kind of made me like kindred heart with the other kids.
Right. It's like you had a sense of community.
Right. And I needed that.
Support system.
It did. And I'm still friends with a lot of the kids I see today. I'm like, oh my God. I don't know their names. I'm like, oh my God, I know your face. So it kind of brings me kind of joy. Yeah. But I definitely want to talk about maybe some resources for those who are in IPV.
I know a big one that everybody may know of is Center for Victims. Their number will be across the screen, I'm believing. So I know that's the main one. However, there's more.
And I know there's the National Domestic Violence Hotline that you can call and
or text.
Or text.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And they give you referrals and resources that are local for you or wherever you plan on going next.
Right. I know right here in Pittsburgh, you can call 211. Yeah, that's a good resource. Hotline, resource hotline, and they can kind of link you to different things like homeless shelters, domestic violence shelters, and even just reaching out to someone you trust, like someone in your church or your community. You know what I mean? It's literally just finding those natural supports.
Even the neighborhood clinic.
Yes.
The neighborhood clinic. Sometimes they'll
go to your doctor's office because they'll ask you.
Yeah, and they'll have pamphlets in the bathroom. Or
I seen a really nice one I thought was so beautiful. It was I can't remember. I took one of my teen moms to a clinic. I think it was in Homewood somewhere. But it was a tab in the bathroom. You pulled the tab, then they knew when they went to go get your urine sample that something was wrong.
Yeah.
And then if your abuser was in the room with you, let's say you're going for like an ultrasound, something like that, they would ask the abuser to leave the room for privacy for a second. Then it would dive deep into the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. Well, I'm not sure about too many hotlines, but if you're ever in a heat of the moment, I say press 911, set the phone down so the background can be heard. There was a situation where a woman actually did that. As a matter of fact, I think she said she tried to order a pizza. She
I've seen that.
And they caught on to what was going on and came and de-escalated the situation. So if you're ever in a heat of the moment, 911. What walk up to you? Someone please call call 911.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Does anybody want to share anything else before we end today?
No.
Okay. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Gwen's Girls Presents Real Women Having Real Conversations.